I think this is so funny. It's just a good story. So there was some confusion last week as far as who's talking who, especially like in around 30, verse 34, 35 through 37. I went through this week and intentionally I used a color code here, green, because I use green for go because Jacob wants to go, and red for Laban, depicting stop. Because Laban wants him to stop. So I went through and color coded my text so I could put it, I think I've got a pretty good understanding of who's talking at who. It makes sense the way we've got it together. I think the key factor in this whole thing, the key discovery for me, is that Jacob's asked if he could go and do the selection, the separation of the flock.
The culling.
Yeah, the culling, that's the word, yes. But I believe it was Laban. I believe Laban actually, he went out and did it. He took the words of Jacob and actually he went out and did it. And it seems to flow more smoothly if you do that, yes.
When reading the Message version of it, they concur.
They concur, yeah, so it was probably a cooperative thing, yeah.
I mean, they concur with what you said.
Uh-huh.
It also says that he gave them to his sons. So that sounds like Laban was the one giving it to his sons.
To Jacob's sons.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I think Laban gave that flock to Jacob's sons because that was now his flock, and so under the care of that family. And then he sent, because in his mind, whenever Jacob is touching anything of Laban's, Laban gets blessed. He sent Jacob away, out of sight, out of mind, and took the best flock and then left Jacob in charge. And that's when Jacob does all of this really interesting stuff that
GMO.
GMO, yes. Alan, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
So let me see if I got my vision of this. They make this deal and they remove all the colored, if you will, Palomino sheep.
Yeah.
Send it off to Jacob's sons. But he keeps Jacob around to tend his sheep.
Right.
And while he's tending the sheep, he's setting up a situation where more and more of the offspring of his sheep are.
Yes.
and
Jacob is.
Yeah, he keeps exporting these spotted sheep
Yeah.
from his flock, and he's just
Uh-huh.
decimating,
Yeah.
Laban's herd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's trying to get what he wants.
So every time they have a new sheep, they're spotted, and he sends them off to his group, and Laban's herd is now suddenly not going to get bigger or better.
Uh-huh. Laban's kind of scratching his head. What's going on here? Try harder, He comes up with this real ingenious way of genetic engineering here. So.
Verse 40 clarifies that, I think.
Yeah.
Which verse?
Verse 40, it says, Jacob set apart the young of the flock by themselves, but made the rest face the
Yeah.
streaked and dark colored animals that belonged to Laban. Thus, he made separate flocks for himself and did not put them with Laban's men.
It's really fun to read the commentaries on this because most commentators are very serious people. I mean, this is hilarious. Well, obviously, God is blessing Jacob's efforts here. So it's just this whole thing is going on, and it's really fun. Really a fun thing to do. So.
What's with the branches?
Well, I don't know. That's just the point. What on earth? You line up these branches, and as the flocks come to drink, where they have to drink, and they see the branches, and they're mating, it creates this offspring. It's crazy.
But it worked.
But it was working.
It was working, yeah.
I wonder if anybody's ever researched
I don't know.
animal husbandry or anything.
Well, we've got people right down the street that could probably give input into that, way more than we want to know.
This has nothing to do with the zebra, does it?
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Well, the point here is that what we've been looking at by way of review is that last time, the tension, the story, the tension is set up for the story of the interaction between the uncle and the nephew, and one wants to go Jacob wants to go. He wants to be released. And Laban, in my little funky arrow here, Laban's trying to lasso him in and have him stay because whenever Jacob's around, Laban is blessed. So there's the tension. That's our launching point for the story. And they both agree. Over here, we had another slide last week. They agree that they are bound together. Think of them as cuffed. They are cuffed in a relationship. And what they don't agree on is the solution to what to do. The cuffing is a temporary state. We can't, Uncle Laban, we can't stay like this. Yes, we can. Therein is the tension. Jacob wants to go. Laban says, no, you won't. So there's this tension going on, and that is what we want. You and I we get this. We get this. But I want to get it more. I want to have some fun with it. And so that's where we're going. The core challenge right up here, going to the next slide, the core challenge is this idea of resistance. Resistance. Now think of these two guys cuffed. And as long as they maintain an inert relationship, non-movement, there's no forces. There's flow. But that is not the case because Jacob has initiated. He wants release. That force is pulling on Laban, and Laban's response naturally is to what? Pull back. And so there you go. There is the resistance. Therein is the resistance. Now, I'm going to have some fun with this because resistance is a physical property, physical law, and in the world I've spent most of my career is the electrical. Anybody know what this little deal is here? Ohm's law, yeah. Ohm's law, George Ohm, late 1830. And he came up with this, actually published this whole thing in a big old book in German. And, I've never read the book, but it talks about that there is a proportional relationship between E, I, and R. Anybody know what these symbols are? Or what's E stand for? Voltage. And it's why does E, V? Well, what they call it in those days was electromotive force, EMF. Electromotive force. So voltage is what's going down a conductor. It's the end result. What?
It's a speed. It's hard.
Yeah, it's 1 coulomb per second. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we forget that. So anyway, EMF, voltage, and the relationship here, this triangle, what this is E, which is electromotive force, equals, guys, we just play here. We're playing. We're not trying to conquer anything here. So just relax and maybe we can learn something here, okay? Okay, E equals I, we're going to look at that in a minute, times R. Times R. So electromotive force equals I. Do you know what I is? Current. Yeah. Anybody know why I is current? Why not C? And how is current measured? What do you call the unit? The amp. And what's interesting about this? Andre Ampere, French, came up with this idea of current as being gradiated by intensity. It was called, in French, it was intensite de current. Intensite de current. And so the I is derived from the intensity of the current. And that's why we use I. Ironically, this guy, Ampere, was the guy now that when we talk in relation, every day in the electrical world, we're talking about amps. in relation to current, not intente, you know. So I think it was very interesting how he named it. He couldn't say A for after his last name. So he used the intente de current, the intensity, but now 170, this was like 1820s, and then Ohm adopted this, or not, yeah, George Ohm adopted this in the later, few years later, with this intensity of current. So that's all free stuff. So I is current, intente de current, times R. That's the only one that makes sense in the formula. You know what that is? Resistance. Yeah. So the idea of the total of the voltage, which is equated to the idea of pressure. Think of it as pressure, like pressure moving through a contained environment, like a water through a hose. Pressure is equal to, not the sum, but the product of current, the intensity of the current, times the resistance, what's in the vessel to keep it holding back. So you've got these two forces. You've got pressure moving this way, but there's always the presence of this force that wants to hinder flow. Is that not true? And what's true in electrical properties is true in life and in our little story right here. The resistance of being cuffed together, and it's just not going to stay like that. Relations do not stay stagnant or in one state. They move, and our relationships in this world tend to react under resistance. I want to take the car, Dad. No, you can't either. Okay, and it's like this. I want, honey, let's go out for dinner tonight to here. I don't, or no, this is how it normally goes. Honey, where would you like to go for dinner tonight? I'd like to take you out. I don't care. Well, how about we go here? Ooh, that place is icky. Is that not true? Okay, that's how it normally goes. I'm safe in that environment, so I'm safe in this environment. So the core challenge to these guys is this idea of resistance. And I want to drill down and have us look at where resistance is possibly, very possibly, in your life. Very possibly.
It's always under the mantle of win-lose.
Yeah.
If it was win-win, there wouldn't be resistance.
Yeah.
Somebody thinks they're going to lose, there's resistance.
Because there's needs.
Giving you something more is something less for me.
Well, and of course, we're talking about the mission of Jesus Christ is putting this whole idea on its head. Because Christ is the one who gave it all over for the ultimate good. He gave it up so that we can win. So I'm going to look at these two guys. What's driving these two guys? And just briefly here, I am going to go somewhere with this, but this little triangle here is what's called Maslow's you know what this is, hierarchy of needs, and the idea that you've got to satisfy these lower states here, and as you satisfy these, you can move up, and you kind of get to this high state of what Maslow calls self-actualizations. But physiological. We got to have bread and water and oxygen to function. And once you get that pretty well down, then you can move to your own personal security. That's why we all build 6-foot privacy fences. Okay, we're functioning at this level as a society. No, that's a joke. And then you get to love and belonging. You know, how am I fitting in? Am I being loved? And then once you move to there, then you can, if you're safe in these environments, you can keep kind of building up, and you get to this place of esteem. Well, who am I? And my own identity is really what you deal with there. And then finally, once you get to all these base pieces in place, then you can really kind of look at, well, gee, what am I? Self-actualization is the word, meaning what do I become? You know, becoming and contribution and so forth to really understand, make my contribution. So that is the idea, and I thought it would be fun to look at these two guys. Notice the triangle's divided with a line, and these two guys on what level are they each functioning at? So when you look at this guy over here, this is Jacob, this is Laban, and I'd like you guys to say, tell me, what level of need, what platform of need is Jacob functioning from here? What is driving his action to leave? What is his need base here? Where would you put it? We're just having fun.
Can you read,
Where would you?
can you read those labels from bottom up?
Oh yeah, you can't read those.
I can't see.
Okay. This says that's the need for food and water.
Okay,
The need for personal safety.
okay.
You know, NRA is really functioning here at this level. Okay, then you got love and belonging. Love and belonging. Okay, my need to be loved. The need for me to gain an identity, and then the need for me to go out and do and make my mark and become all that you can be, you know, that kind of thing. So where is he functioning?
He's looking, I think belonging, he doesn't really belong in Laban.
You think belonging? Okay. What? Anybody else?
Esteem.
What's that?
Esteem.
Esteem, belonging. Okay.
That's where Jacob is.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to put.
There.
I'm going to put here. I'm going to mark right in here. This is what you guys say. He's dealing at the level of esteem and belonging. Okay. And then how about Laban? Where is he? What is his level of need?
Safety.
You think it's safe? Why do you think it's safety?
He doesn't want Jacob to go
Because of.
because he is safe with Jacob there.
Okay. What do you guys think of that?
I'm struggling with that hierarchy because, I mean, it says he belongs, it's his homeland, it's where he's at. I assume he's esteemed, being that he's the head.
Well, you
dude.
can digress in one area. I think it's legal to do that.
I think, you know, Jacob is helping him fulfill his final thing. I mean, he seems to like prospering, and I don't know if prospering means increases his safety or if it takes him up to being self-actualized. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, is it not true that he's afraid? Is there not fear here? He's afraid of Jacob going. He's afraid of what might happen if Jacob leaves.
But he was going to
Jacob's doing
find
a great job.
What's that?
Jacob's doing a great job for him, so he's fearful of losing.
So what level would you put that at?
I'm sorry again.
Okay, read it. So,
Yeah.
I think it's Savannah that with this hierarchy here, in some areas of life, so to speak, we can be more at the top of the pyramid. In other areas,
Yeah.
we still feel vulnerable.
That's what I'm struggling with.
yeah, that's really true. So we're just having some fun with this, and we're going to go someplace with this. We're going to bring it back to us, and it is this whole idea of resistance is so subtle, and I've really had some fun with it, thinking about it, and we're looking at this merely as an example that we can relate to. Think of, as you leave today, the idea of uncle and nephew both functioning out of a sense of need. We've defined with their level of need, but cuffed together in a relationship, and neither like the state of the relationship the way it is or the way it could be. Okay? And that's where we'll go next week. So thank you for listening in.
Deal with the one that's